Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications, and we are continuing with the Chapter 18 Theory for Inventory and Overhead. And we had left off working on FIFO and LIFO in the last video, and I had said that even though we covered those concepts, there's more to it, so we're going, this is like part 2 of FIFO and LIFO. So let me jump down to that slide. And just a brief recap here. We had talked about using the refrigerator, excuse me, an empty refrigerator as a foundation for being able to understand FIFO and LIFO, and that we bought some milk, 5 gallons of milk, and then we bought 7 gallons of milk, and then we had to take out 6 gallons. Well, how did we decide which one, what we would still have in the refrigerator? Well, we had put in 5 first, and then we pushed those to the back, and we put the next 7 in, right? So when it came time to take out 6 of them, right, depending upon the method we used, okay, whether it was FIFO or LIFO would determine whether we took out, if we were using FIFO, we would have started with the 5 that were in the back because they were the first ones in. If we were using LIFO, we would have taken out from the group of 7 because they were the last ones to be put in, okay? And whatever was left in the refrigerator, we calculated, all right, and came up with the evaluation. Now, when we had done the valuation, okay, for FIFO, we had determined that the value of the inventory after we took out the 6 gallons was $12. And for LIFO, we had found that it's $7. Okay, so this kind of presents a paradox in that, well, they're the same 12 gallons of milk, okay, and they're both priced, the 5 at $1 and the 7 at $2, okay, but and we still only have 6 gallons in the refrigerator. So why, depending upon the method, we have 2 different amounts for what the value of our inventory is. And that's true. Okay. Using FIFO, the first ones in are the first ones out. And again, this is about how you want to present the information on your financial statements in order to be able to do an analysis of your financial position. Okay, when you think about FIFO, generally things that you buy in the past are cheaper than you buy today. Okay, so if they were the things in the past which were cheaper, if you took them out, well then obviously what you have today is more expensive because they cost more. So your FIFO method means that your inventory valuation would be higher. It would show you'd have a higher dollar value in inventory versus if you were using LIFO. Remember, in the past it was cheaper, today it's more expensive. Well, if I'm taking out the more expensive, that means the cheaper is left in in the inventory, and therefore it's a lower value. And so which one is right or which one is wrong to use? Well, again, it all depends upon how you want to present your financial position in the company. There's no right or wrong to it. What is right or wrong is that if you're told to use FIFO and you end up, if you're told to use FIFO and you end up with the LIFO amount, then you're wrong. Okay. And conversely, if you're told to use the LIFO method and you end up with the FIFO amount, you're wrong. Okay. And usually businesses will choose one or the other, and that's what they stick with. Right. They don't bounce back and forth between accounting periods and switching all the time just because of differences in situations, like popped into my head, the price of aluminum. The price of aluminum goes up and down. Okay. Aluminum cans, things like that. And so, one month it might be, more expensive. The next month it might be cheaper. And you can't be switching back and forth in order to be able to present your financial information in its best light. You have to choose one or the other, or whichever one you choose, as a evaluation method. Remember, you can choose specific ID and the weighted average also, but you choose one and you stick with it. Okay, so now I had said we're not finished here, okay, but I wanted to go over this because we have to come back to it. So let me go down to a blank slide here and let's use our imagination again. And in this case here, and you'll see how this ties together and when I get done with this. Now remember, we're not done with FIFO and LIFO, all right? This here's a continuation of it. All right, so here's you, all right? And you let's say you work in the accounting office. Oh boy, can't spell again. Okay. You work in the accounting office as a bookkeeper, okay? And let's just say this is quote unquote the grocery store, okay? And in the grocery store, in the back, there is a walk-in cooler. And I mean, you've seen these in your grocery stores where you have the shelves and you have the doors, and in there they have the milk and things like that, okay? Well, let's just stick to milk. Let's say that you have these gallons of milk in the grocery store, in the walk-in cooler. And let's say at the beginning of the month, at the beginning of the accounting period, there is 25 gallons, and it doesn't matter what the value is. It doesn't matter how much they cost, okay, at this point in time. There's 25 of them in the walk-in cooler, okay? And on your books, your book value, you have those 25, okay? Now, you're sitting in that accounting office, and obviously, customers are coming in and going out and buying and, everything, and it's not your job to be standing at the door, trying to count everything that they buy, okay? You're just sitting in that office, right? But it is the job of the manager to keep the store stocked, right? So we all know that, we started out with 25, and during the day, people buy milk, okay? But nobody's keeping track of, how many were sold. I mean, yes, we're keeping track of our sales by going past the cashier, but we're not saying, oh, this exact many of how the milk was, how many were purchased, right? But what ends up happening is the manager, he notices that the milk, right, what's on the shelf is getting to be kind of weak there, okay? So he places an order, and let's say he generally does this once a week. So he places an order for, I don't know, let's just make something up here, say 30 more gallons of milk, okay? So you get the invoice and you show that as part, you put it on your books. So on your books, your available for sale right now is 55, right? The 25 plus the 30, right? And that's what you put on your books. The manager, he fills up the shelf, right? But there's not 55 in there because people were purchasing them, right? And this continues on. Some people buy some of the milk, right? And the manager says, it's the end of week 2, and we need to buy more milk, so we're going to buy, say, 20 more this week, okay? So now at the end of the week 2, my goods available for sale are not 55, they're 75, right? 25 plus 30 plus 20, 75, okay? And of course, we know that there's not 75 in the case, right? And the manager, puts them back out on the, right? Puts them out for sale, okay? And Of course, people come along and they're buying some more, right? And the manager says, at the end of week 3, we need to purchase 35 more, okay, because we're getting kind of low here, okay? So our goods available for sale now, are 110. 25, 30, 20 plus 35 is 110, right? Now we're showing them on our books. That's our book value, right? And that's what's available for sale. But we know that when the manager puts those 35 gallons of milk back into that cooler, obviously there's not 110 gallons of milk there, okay? And let's do that one more time. This time in week 4, he buys, let's just make it 25 again. Yeah, let's just make it 25. I don't care what the numbers end up being. So our available for sale is now 135, right? So that's our goods available for sale. And of course, people bought some, okay? But now we know that, we had, as far as you're concerned, it's sitting in the accounting office, which you can't see what's going on. Your books say we should have 135 gallons of milk in your cooler, but there isn't 135, right? Because people were buying them. So you tell the manager, Mr. Manager, go and do a physical inventory, okay? So the manager goes over and he counts them all up, and he comes back to you and says, there's 65 gallons, I'm sorry, there's 60. I'm just going to use 60 as a better number. There's 60 gallons on hand. Okay, in other words, there's 60 gallons in that cooler. All right. I realize that's a high number, but no, let's change that number to let's change that number to 15 gallons on hand. Okay. That's a better number for me to play with here, more realistic. All right, so there's 15 gallons on hand, right? That is the quantity on hand, okay? The quantity on hand. That is not what was sold, okay? Remember, we have 135 that are available for sale. And if we take out the 15 that are on hand, that means 120 were sold. Okay? The 120 were sold, all right, become our cost of goods sold. Right? That's our cost of goods sold. You know this from the previous videos on the different methods. Available for sale less ending inventory gives us our cost of goods sold. But now the question becomes, and here's where we go back to thinking about the refrigerator, okay, and that simple example of 5 and 7 gallons. Well, we did the same exact thing here, sort of, okay. We went and we said, okay, we started out with 25, we added 30, added 20, added 35, added 25, but now when the manager goes and he says, there's 15 on hand, and this is where some people get messed up, because it's the 15 on hand, what they do is now when they go to apply the concept of FIFO and LIFO, they go and say, I take 15 off. If it's FIFO, they take 15 off of this 25 because those were the first ones in. If they were using LIFO, they would say, I have to take off the 15 from the 25 because I'm using LIFO and the last ones in were these from week 4. So I take the 15 out of the 25. That's wrong, all right? Because why? That isn't, that's the quantity on hand. That isn't the one, how many were sold, broken, stolen, or whatever have you, okay? The 120 units, we have to do this one extra calculation in order to know how many units were taken out for the cost of goods sold. Okay, so knowing 15 on hand and we have 120 left, now we apply the FIFO method. Okay, and we're using 120 as the basis. Okay, so as a basis, if I have 120 units here that I have to get rid of, and let's do FIFO first. Okay, first in, first out means which ones would I take out first? And I have to take out a full 120. Well, first in, first out starts with the beginning inventory, so I would take out 25, right? That means I have 95 left. Then I have to take out 30, right? So that means I have 65 left. Well, out of this next group of 20, I can still take out all 20 because I have 65 left. Now I'm down to 45. Oh, in this next group here, I have, out of the week 3, I can take out the full 35 because I still have 45 left. So I take out the 35, and that means I have to take out 10 more. So out of this group of 25, I have to take out 10 more, and that's where I have my 15, on hand, my quantity on hand. And that 15 at whatever price those 15 were, let's just say that's, $2 a gallon, okay? That means my inventory would be $30. Okay, the inventory valuation would be $30 based upon FIFO. Okay, so as a quick recap to that method, oops, I forgot what that was, 35 that was, yep. Okay, as a quick recap to that method, okay, using FIFO, we know we have 135 on our books. Okay, the manager does physical inventory and says, we have 15 still in the case. That means we had to sell 120 of them. Well, we have to take the 120 out of our inventory, off of our books. And we start, if we're using FIFO, we start with the first ones in, right? The first ones that went into the refrigerator, okay? We take those out. Then we, since we had pushed those back and we put more in week 1, okay, we're going to take those out. And we had pushed everything back further and put in more in week 2, we have to take those out. Week 3, we take those out, and what was left over from out of this 25 in week 4, we had 15 more that we had to take, we had to take out 10 of them, all right, which means we still had the 15 left from week 4 at whatever dollar value it is. Okay. Now, if it was LIFO, we're doing it in the opposite direction. Okay. We would, the last ones, and remember, think about the refrigerator. I started with 25 and, my refrigerator was empty. So I put in 25. And then at week 1, I pushed the 25 to the back and I put in the 30. And in week 2, I pushed all of those more to the back and I put in 20. In week 3, I pushed all of those back, I put in 35 more. And in week 4, I pushed everything to the back and I put the last ones in the front. Okay, so if I have to get rid of 120 and I'm using LIFO instead, okay, I have to take the last ones out first. So which were the last ones? Oh, well, here's the 25. So I take out 25. That gives me 95 left. I have to take out 35. That means I have 60 left to account for. I take out 20 because I can. That means I have 40 left. I have to take out I can take out the full 30. Okay, that means I have 10 more to take out. And out of this 25 that were the part of the beginning inventory, I can take out 10 of those. So that means I have the 15 left from the full 25. From that beginning inventory of 25. But now here's the catch. Remember down here, when I was using FIFO, it said these 25 were $2 each. right? I'm sorry, yeah, were $2 each. So I had 15 of those and the value was $30. Well, maybe back here in the beginning inventory, those 25 were $1.50 each. Because remember, in the past, it generally is less expensive than the most current. So if they were at $1.15 and there were 15 of them, well, I have the 15 times my $1.50, so my inventory valuation would be $22.50. So under FIFO, right, my inventory valuation would be $22.50, and under LIFO, it would be $30. Okay, and again, that's what we kind of expect because FIFO is, has the we're taking the first ones out, so the more I'm sorry. Oops, I'm sorry. I got that backwards. That's using FIFO. That's $30, and using LIFO, that's $22.50. Excuse me. And that makes sense because taking the first ones in, that means the last ones in are more expensive, so we expect our inventory valuation to be higher. When we're taking our last ones out first, the more expensive ones, that means the cheaper ones are still left in, so our inventory valuation should be lower. Okay, so between the other video was 19 minutes long, this one now is 22 minutes long. The difference, they both go together. Okay. That previous slide, the previous video, gave you a mental understanding of the difference between LIFO and FIFO. And go back and watch that video again if you're not sure about something. In this video, even though this looks all scribbly, right? There's a lot going on here, right? The crux of all of this is right here. Okay, right here. We had our goods available for sale. We did the ending inventory, so we knew how many were our cost of goods sold. And we have to use that number of units and then back off, depending upon FIFO or LIFO, out of those figures in order to be able to get. So the step that most people get wrong, like I said earlier, was the quantity on hand. If they tell the manager to go do an inventory and they say, oh, there's 15 left, what happens to a lot of people is they assume that the 15 is the cost of goods sold. They don't do this one extra step right in here. Okay, they don't. Oh, this is all messy, real messy, right? They don't do this extra step of saying I have 135 on available for sale, and if I have an ending inventory of 15, that means 120 of them were sold. That's my cost of goods sold. Well, yes, I have to make the entry to take them out of inventory and put them to cost of goods sold, but what's the dollar value? Okay, well, the dollar value depends upon which method you're using, FIFO or LIFO. Okay, so that's it, and I'm not going to recap that because this is already pretty long for a video. Watch both videos in tandem again, and if you still don't understand something, hopefully you do, because mostly on the telephone and explaining it this way, people seem to understand it and they're able to apply it to the problems in the book. Okay, and by keeping in mind, imagining that refrigerator, imagining that cooler, imagining what taking inventory means and having an ending inventory and the goods available for sale, they imagine it in a simplistic level, and now it doesn't matter whether it's milk in a cooler or plumbing supplies, nuts, bolts, nails, whatever. Okay, they're able to use it. So if you have any questions, watch the videos again, and if you still have any questions, definitely telephone and speak with an instructor. Okay, see you in the next video for more of this theory on chapter 18.